So I do have a keynote presentation that I want to show, which just shows how artists have used sketching to inform their work. For me, sketching and photography, because I also take my camera and go around, are ways to increase my observational skills and to also build my visual library, my visual memory. So you remember the way that, light looked on water, the way the shadows.
With what? Sorry, excuse me. What's the first? Build visual memory. Increase.
So
what?
you're increasing your observational skills, your powers of observation, because you have to see things quickly.
Yeah.
So it's a little different than looking at a photograph or taking a photograph of something. Obviously, you can look at that later. But there may be something else going on that first catches your eye when you're sketching. And it might be just the way that the light is framing someone standing in a doorway, let's say,
Right.
and their position in that doorway. And then maybe when you take a photo and you look later, you'll see that let's say there's a woman lounging in a doorway having a cigarette, and you didn't notice that behind her in the shadow, in the glass, looking through the glass of the door from the inside of the building, there's maybe a little girl watching her, or a child watching her, or something that kind of adds a story element. And maybe this child feels neglected, I don't know. But I'm saying that there's stories in everything that you observe. And so both of those things, taking a photo and then also sketching, are legitimate. And you will see different things in each. But when you recall that scene, when you're sketching, and you will recall that what first made you interested in that image was maybe the way the darkness kind of framed that woman in the doorway, and her attitude, her pose, maybe the way she was holding the cigarette, right? And you are training your eye to see those things, to actually notice those things when you sketch. It doesn't mean that you'll even be able to capture them, right? Because the person may move by the time you're actually putting pencil to paper, but you've observed it and you're somehow recording it in your mind. And the more you sketch, the better you get at being able to draw those things that even if after they've changed, you'll be able to capture some of that movement. So I like to draw things that are alive. I like to draw characters. So if I'm going to paint a landscape, I want there to be a tree I can focus on that has character, right? That has personality. And then the background will sort of exist to hold that tree, but the tree is the dominant character. So, when we go out to draw, I'll just look for something that I can focus on, whether there's an interesting bench across the street. That bench has character, right? So I would be interested in that bench and maybe the way that the posters that are in the window say something about the environment, about the town, right? Maybe there's some slogans or something that again, there's a story implied, right? So I'm always looking for the story.
I saw a video on YouTube about seeing the forest for the trees, about how to take landscape pictures in the woods.
Yeah.
And the guy said I have to go around and search for what he called a hero tree.
Right.
So that's helpful for me. I still can't take good pictures in the forest, but it's helpful for me to think that way,
Yeah, there's witching trees. There's trees that have interesting branches and faces in them.
Yeah.
Which I call witching trees. There's, as you say, like there's the noble tree that stands alone against all the elements. But anyway, so yeah, looking for the story. So I have a presentation which shows a number of things. It's going to show how some very famous artists like Daumier, who was a caricaturist and a satirist, and he did a lot of courtroom drawings of lawyers and judges, and to a lesser extent criminals. But anyway, his images are kind of funny, but he sketched a lot. And I'm going to show you how he used some of his sketches to then make more detailed drawings later. And of course, that was a time pre-camera. At least I believe it was pre-camera, the time he lived in. I'm also going to show you some images by Kata Kollwitz. There's a woman who lost a son in the First World War and a grandson in the Second, so a lot of suffering in her life. And her husband was a doctor, and he treated poorer people. And so she saw a lot of misery, a lot of women whose husbands drank and were abusive, and just a lot of tough times. So she drew a lot.
Yeah, get it over here.
And then was able to express a lot about that hardship of their lives by the body poses she chose to put them into.
You want a restroom? Huh? Did you say you need the restroom?
No,
Oh.
it's not sure there's room here.
Oh, there's plenty.
You could get an extension table. You say body poses for
Well, you'll see that. You'll see that. So the expressiveness of her, of the people, of the figures, tell you something about their anguish. Let's say. So she's a lot of her work is very dramatic. Very
good.
very heavy. Whereas a lot of Daumier's work is very humorous. So I'm kind of tempering that. So I'm gonna just Steve, tell me where I can stand.
Nope, you're fine. You'll be wherever you want to be. Figure out wherever is best for you.
You can't see it.
I just need a pencil because I didn't bring a pencil.
Yep. Well, where?
Yes. Looks like we have a lot of them over here.
No.
We have one that's like not mechanical. All right. Thanks. Sorry, I just don't like mechanical
That's fine.
pencils.
So
That's
places
what they
that I
get
love
me.
to draw.
These are nice.
You can have whatever you want.
So places that I love to sketch, or used to love to sketch because they're gone now, but I used to love to go to racetracks. And the reason I liked racetracks is that I wouldn't draw the horses or the necessarily the race itself, but I love to draw the people who were betting because first of all they were very focused, so they kind of ignored me. They were very focused on what they were doing and marking their betting sheets and all that. And then also,
You got Laura. Excellent.
you can
Come on in.
get so. So let's see. So I'm going to show you one thing. If you take only one thing away from today, this is what you want to take away. So you want to hold your pencil. You want to hold your pencil like this. You don't want to hold it like that. You can always switch back and forth. So I'm not saying you don't want to hold your pencil like this as you're drawing. But if you can learn to be comfortable holding your pencil like this, it'll give you a lot more flexibility in how quickly you can make areas of light and dark. Right? Because when you're drawing like this, I'm grab a piece of paper. So I'll just use this as a portrait of somebody that's already done. But let's say I wanted to create a shadow around him, and I'm trying to go like this and do that. Let's say I want very quickly to show some drama. I can just do that. And all of a sudden, I've got this very nice, large area, of dark around him. I can make lines like this, right? Areas of light and dark. I can make stripes. I can put some tone very quickly here. Do you see how? Yep. And then if I want, I want to make a fine line like for his hair, then I can go back and I can, use my point. The other thing that's kind of nice about doing that is you keep your pencil sharp for longer, right? You keep turning. You can keep turning the pencil. So this, just holding it like this is a really useful method for sketching. Now I learned that from an old teacher of mine. His name was Bill Oakes. This is something that he put together. He made himself, it's called the Sketch Course Manual. But he liked to draw, so he was a real illustrator, sketching artist. He got assignments from newspapers, like he covered the Watergate trials, and he went in and he sketched the courtroom scenes in Watergate.
Wow.
Yep, I can show you some of those. And he liked two tools. He liked this pencil, And you also like to use like a sumi brush with ink and something with ink in the handle. So I don't know if you've seen that kind of tool that has ink in the handle. It's really wonderful for being able to also sketch
Now,
as
is
well
that
as
a
paint at the
particular
same
kind
time.
of pencil?
Yeah, I was gonna ask
So
that,
this
thank
is,
you.
I used to use ebony pencils. I don't know if you can still get them. I love them. I think you can. This is just called a Derwent sketching pencil. This is an ebony pencil.
How do you spell what you just said, Joel?
It's a brand. It's Derwent. It's Derwent. I think Derwent also has a pencil that you can wet after you use it, so you can make areas of wash. There's just all kinds of materials. This is a General's layout pencil. I also use something called a China marker. A China marker is a little bit more waxy, and what's nice about the China marker is it makes a beautiful black, like a lithograph. It's almost like a print. You know, you see a lithograph has this beautiful black color. There's all kinds of blacks, right? There's like a charcoal black. There's a graphite black, which is more gray. You can't get really deep black with graphite, but you can get really deep black with a China marker and with like a charcoal pencil. You can get very darks.
What was the first one you said? Did it begin with an E?
Ebony.
Ebony?
Yep. So think ebony black. Think ebony pencil. Ebony pencil. But anyway, so Bill Oakes was great. Was a great artist and a very good teacher. And he created something which he called the self-contained sketch. So he taught us to always make an outline, a frame on your page, so that you were training your eye to be able to draw within that line. Now I still have trouble with that. I'm a muralist. I like my arm to be going like this, right? So it's very hard for me to kind of see things small. But it is good. It is, again, it's an exercise for you. So the more you do it, the better you get. If you create a little frame just on the inside your paper, so instead of just seeing the outside of the page, you are sort of forcing yourself to draw within a frame. And then he would just draw within that, and everything would be connected, right? So here he has 3 people who are on a train, and you can tell the person probably, this is not his, this is somebody else, I think it's one of his students. But this person probably never even lifted the pen off the paper when they were drawing. This would be something else, something similar. And again, you can see how he uses a lot of drama in the line and in the lights and darks. But the line of the frame here actually goes right into the figure. She can bring the dog in. I don't mind the dog lying. I have a dog, so I'm fine. Let's see if there's any other
How old is
example.
that manual?
Oh, this is I mean, he's not alive anymore. You might be able to get one of these online. He probably did this back in the 70s or 80s, probably 80s.
Bill Oakes,
Bill Oakes.
O-A-K-E-S.
Yep, Bill Oakes.
I thought it was like Phil Oakes.
Yeah, he probably had some things in common with Phil Oakes. Okay, so next, let's go on. Okay. How do I do this? Hold on, okay. So again, you're making observations. You'll notice also tones, things that are tonally different. You'll notice that the water is dark, that the wall behind the water is a little bit lighter, and then you've got these little people at the top. So you're just making observations when you're sketching. I'm just going to run through some pictures that show you that. This is by I believe it's John Sloan. This is from a group of artists who are called the Ashcan School. They're called. Have you heard of that before? The Ashcan artists. They would go out into New York and sort of draw and paint street scenes, and just everyday life. So they're wonderful. If you like sketching, you'd love to see their work because they just would capture everyday things that you would see on the street. But this is absolutely delightful. So this is a woman who is hanging out laundry, and everything about that drawing is just hilarious, right? But we all know this. We've all done this. Here's this woman, she's out in the balcony, the wind is blowing, she's trying to hang out her laundry. It's basically, her face is obscured by the fact that the laundry is flapping all around. there's all this action that's happening in this because of all the quick lines that the person is using to try to capture that act. And you wouldn't paint this. This is perfect. This captures that scene. Like if you were trying to paint this and it was rendered nicely and it had the sky in the background, it wouldn't have the energy, right, or even the humor that this has. This really is all about the struggle with the wind. This is woman in laundry against wind, right? So this is absolutely perfect example of what sketching can do for you. This is some of the work of Bill Oakes, just showing you how to essentially design inside a border, a frame. Yep. He traveled and would do these travel sketches. So again, you can see how these are, when he says self-contained sketch, it just means that basically you're just drawing and creating everything that's important in that scene and doing it very quickly. He added color to this later, but here's a guy, he's a rug salesman, he's standing in front of his rug, he's got a couple of chickens down here, and here are these three guys, they're probably in a tea room, sitting together. Yeah, that's lovely. And I'm not quite sure how he did that, because that's him. So I don't know.
Wow.
That's him with the child, so I don't know quite how he did that. He just...
Maybe you had
Maybe
a
from a
photograph.
photo, yeah.
Could be. Could be.
There you go.
But this again, so he has camel, he has man with camel, he has the camel with the load on top, and then he has a little bit of the background. So it's all in one, right? He's giving you a little bit of the background, he's giving you the characters in front. And this is a different technique. This is done with wash. So the people are little silhouettes, and then you have the blockiness of the city, and I'm not sure if these are people, so it's not palm trees. This is a donkey, but it's all done with wash. It's it's quite good.
So that was done live before.
Yes, that was done on site. I'm sure.
Mad skills.
Now this is Kata Kowitz, and that shows you an example of
Excuse me,
how
when you say
she's-
wash, what do you mean? What kind of paint?
So probably a brush with ink in the handle, or a brush with a bottle of ink,
Oh, okay.
and like sepia ink is my guess. And then this is Kata Kowitz. This is a self-portrait. This is her drawing, and this gives you an example of, first of all, she was a master artist, so she didn't need to think too much about that arm. She knew how to draw that. So self-portrait, and she's just taking the tool and going, and there's your arm. So that's an example of what I was saying. When you hold your pencil with the side exposed, you can create things very, very quickly. And then obviously this is more detailed. But it's kind of a nice contrast, right? You have this contrast of the finer, more detailed drawing, and then the vitality of that arm, of that line. And I'm sure she did that pretty quickly. This is just observations of shadow and the way that shadow can define form. You have this little sliver of candle right here. You can see what it is. And then here, you're creating again a drawing that shows not just people but place, but where they are. So you know they're in a church because you have a crucifix back here.
That's cool.
Yep, and then you know they're in the library because you wouldn't have you'll have books and poster of read. This is a nice composition here. And there's a market. So this would be probably more the kind of thing that we would get today.
But if I went to a farmer's market, that would be a photo to sit
Yeah.
and sketch.
Yeah, absolutely. A place where people are not moving too quickly. So usually people at a farmer's market, they're moving, but they're also, standing and looking at fruit, and they have to wait in line to pay and things like that. So it's not a bad place. This is from his from Bill Oakes' Watergate series here. So he's got, I guess, a panel listening to some of the testimony, and then he has the judge sitting here, and there's a little piece of the flag. So again, he's giving you the environment, the space. Courtrooms, another great place to sketch. So courthouses are public places. You can go into a courthouse and sketch. So when I run my class in Worcester, I have a documentary class that I teach in Worcester. We quite often will go to the courthouse. We'll go to the library because a lot of homeless people are in the library. They make wonderful models because they're not unfriendly and they don't, usually for the most part, don't mind you paying some attention to them. And they also sit still for long periods of time. They go there to hang out, you know. So courthouses are good places to draw. The libraries are good places to draw. These again market, and what's nice is you can add color to your sketches. And we want to go draw, right? The other thing that is really nice to do is to work in series. So if you have something that is interesting to you, like a courthouse, or this is somebody who actually traveled with the circus off and on from decades, I think. But if you have something that you're interested in, like I love the racetrack. I used to love to go to the racetrack, and I did actually end up going back on the lot and drawing some of the grooms and the horses. And I'm really sorry it's gone because that was a great place it was just a great place for studies of people and animals and gambling. It was just great. The whole thing was great. It's hard for me to find something now that I feel that motivated. But I also worked for a circus for a while, so you can see that the things that I used to love to draw are kind of gone. They're out of favor right now. But if you have something that you are fascinated with, whether it's a job that someone does, or whether it's a place that you love to go all the time, like a farm, like it can even be let's say a community garden where people are working through the seasons, and you make a sort of a documentary series of what happens in that garden throughout the seasons. That could be very poignant. That could be a lovely series. And you can have a show of all those pieces. So you can sketch, you can take photographs, and then you put that all together. You can make finished drawings from that and then put that all together. You can have a very nice show of that and an in-depth portrait of something that you're interested in. So these will show you a lot of sketches that he made over the years, and they're very dynamic and very, just really interesting. He has the animals, he has the people, he has them getting ready for the show, he has them performing. This was from a show that I actually had a show of my circus pieces, and there in a case there were some of the sketchbooks of this artist, and I just thought he was amazing.
So are those? I see on the bottom panel, all of them, as a matter of fact, studies, because there's groups of different things, right?
Yeah, so
as opposed to the upper right, which is a complete piece without a background.
Right, he was just making studies.
Yeah.
He's just
Okay.
making studies. Yeah. And so some of them. So here he has lots of images of this guy just getting ready for the show. I don't know what he's doing here. I have to look at it a little bit more closely. But he's, he even has a close up of this hat, that he wears. So he's giving you not just sketches of a scene or of a moment in time. He's telling you something about the whole life of that person. This is what I was saying about Kata Kallwitz and her ability to create drama just by showing you the way the figure is turned or contorted. Here you can see children are wanting something from her that she can't give, essentially, in this image. They're wanting comfort or nourishment that she really can't give, and she feels bad about that, and so she's turned.
Wow,
she's hunched over. Very bleak. Her work is very bleak, but she did lose a son in the First World War and a grandson in the Second. That's a lot of heartache, right? It's a lot of heartache. These are her also, and so I said, she worked for, her husband was a doctor, and so she's for poor people, so she saw a lot of suffering. So this is a woman probably who's pregnant for the umpteenth time and doesn't have any food for her kids, and is coming to see the doctor. So this is at the doctor's door, basically. these are people that she saw. This is also a study on toned paper, and what's nice about this is you can, if you work on toned paper, you can use some white, some gouache, so opaque medium, to show light, and to very quickly get drama. You have dark and light image, which is very strong, stronger than you can get on a white piece of paper, or has more atmosphere, let's put it that way. And this is Damier, and I was telling you that he was very funny. So here he has a sketch, and this was done, I'm sure, in the courtroom, and he has the lawyer pointing to someone who's probably a defendant, and he's trying to defend, he's trying to represent them in the best light possible. But he makes that a lot more clear when he does a final image. So here, he's taking his sketch and his idea that he had in the sketch, and also, again, very careful attention to the light and the dark, right? He's using the light. Your eye travels, because your eye reads left to right, so your eye is traveling from the very dramatic light here, through his little white cravat, down through his hand, down through this hand, into her face, and doesn't she look sweet and innocent? I didn't poison my husband. How, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, how could you think this sweet face could ever be responsible for anything evil in the world, right? But anyway, so your eye goes like that, right? So you're leading the eye.
Between one and another, you see the diagonal going
Well, he thought about, so he's a master draftsman, so he knew how to do that. But his idea came from that, right? Here are two lawyers talking, and again, you're right, and he's changed the light to pull your eye through.
To their faces.
To their faces, right. This is George Bellows, and George Bellows did a lot of scenes of fights. So very dramatic. You'd go to these boxing rings, and some of them were, dubious. People got hurt. But again, showing you how he did a study. From life he would go and sketch, and then he worked this up into a final drawing. So here, he didn't have time to draw this arm. It was it was there for a moment and then gone. You can see just the expression over here. But he remembered it later. Maybe he had somebody pose it later so he would get it correctly. But it was very important to have it here. That's what he saw. That's what excited him, was that action, right? And again, this is just showing how you can add color to a drawing. When you finally finish sketching, you can add some color to it to make it more.
Do you usually use watercolor?
I do use watercolor, yep. I'm going to run through these more quickly so we can go outside and draw, so the doggy can go outside too. Subways are another great place to draw trains because people don't move, they sit there. Everybody these days are looking at their phone, which is not terribly exciting, but it gives you a chance to study people. This is Damier too, and what's humorous about this is called second class carriage. So these guys don't get glass in the window. They're open to the winds. You see they're all freezing on this train. And out there, they're all cold. They're all bundled together. Not a pleasant trip to work or home or wherever they're going. Oh, and this is my work, and I'm just going to show you quickly. So I also did some train pieces, but these are, so this is a combination of things that I observed, made some sketches, but photographs also. So I took photographs, but I put them together. So this is not one scene. I create the scene out of many different things. So photos and sketches, and then the things that I add to try to tell a story. And this was just about women going to work. And this one is just about the relationship between these two. I think she looks concerned for him. He's tired. That was my impression of these two. And this is some of the racetrack people. So these are grooms. So this is a groom hosing down a horse's leg, and you know this is a horse that's never going to win a race, right? And this is a guy who who loves his job, loves the horses, but it's kind of sweet and sad at the same time. He's taking care of this horse's sore leg, and this was a groom who had a one-eyed cat.
Oh, jeez.
That he loved.
I like that one.
Yep, and so I'm just going to, so I think the rest of these are just sort of silhouette. I just want to show you how you can also just use silhouettes. You don't have to use line. You can just very quickly look for the action and create a silhouette drawing. And that's it, we don't have to look at that anymore. So I'm going to shut this down, and we can head out.
Oh, it is.
So, one thing that another thing that I like to do in my sketchbook is I like to just put in on some of the pages some different paper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just so that if you want to add color later, you can just see, or just have the option of, having a different kind of texture.
Now, what is this kind of paper called, the brown?
So it would just be pastel paper.
Okay.
Pastel paper.
Get it, Michael?
Yep, absolutely. So pastel paper is good for doing stuff like those are llamas. Say you can add a little white. Yep, and you can add a little bit of white to especially for animals. It's nice. This is just a pastel drawing of a scene. And then there's one more thing that I do. So like, let's say I like a drawing that I've done. So this is a drawing that I did. And I want to add some other things from one of the sketches. So this was in a food court. So I got her in the food court. Her little dog was getting all these little nibblies from all of these different places.
Oh, what a riot.
All the people knew.
That's funny.
This woman and her dog, and so they always gave the dog little treats. It's very sweet.
I like
little
the
chunky. Yeah. So what you can do is take a piece of carbon paper later. Right. So you take a piece of carbon paper, and you can just take it and put it down on your watercolor paper that you've glued into your or pasted into your sketchbook, and then you can take your drawing and quickly draw it out.
Oh.
And then add something. Let me see if I have the drawing of that from the food court. I don't know. I'm not sure. This would be in the library. Like this is something you might get in the library. People sitting for long periods of time. This is a courtroom. This is a courtroom sketch. Food court. All of my sketches. There's food court sketches, or they may be in another sketch. No, here we go.
So you take your original sketch,
This
and you
is
put
the-
carbon paper, and then you get that. Okay.
Yeah, and then this I wouldn't, this is too big for me to just simply take and copy, but I have the scene, so I can just take that and sketch it in as background. So I'm placing that woman in an environment, right? So I'm placing her, so I'm placing her in the food court. There's a couple photos.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's just fun, it's just something fun to do. So carbon paper, if you have just a sheet of it in your
Next to my typewriter.
sketchbook, yeah, exactly.